In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create this fresh, dewy makeup look. I'm going to be using a range of products. Some of them are going to be high-end and some of them are going to be drugstores.
Come on, girl, dance to your drum, you got it now. Feeling sexy, sexy. Doing the thing, louder, let's sing, you got it now. Feeling sexy, sexy. Feeling sexy, sexy.
So I started by doing a cleanse, tone and moisturize skin prep. Here I'm just cleansing the skin, just using a cream cleanser for sensitive skin on some cotton pads. This will remove any traces of leftover makeup or dirt on the skin. Next I'm going to tone the skin just to remove any leftover cleanser, and then I'm going to use a duo fibre brush to apply some moisturiser all over the face. Next I've taken a spoolie and I'm using the Black Heart Beauty Brow Soap, and I'm going to start by brushing those brow hairs down just to coat them in the soap and then brushing them back up. I use an upwards and outwards motion to kind of get that lifted look with the brows. This client had really nice thick full brows, so I didn't have to do too much with them to get the effect I wanted. Now I'm going in with the P. Louise Base Shade 1 and the brush 7072. And I really take my time with this section, so I'll carve out the line underneath the brow where I want it to look quite structured, and I'll just sketch this across the rest of the brow. Any excess product I pull down onto the lid, and then I can use this later on to sit underneath my eyeshadow. I really like to take my time with this bit and really make sure I've got a nice even layer across the whole lid, because it's just going to make it easier later on for me when I come to apply that colour, because it'll be like a really nice thin layer. Then I take a fluffy brush and I just buff all over this base shade, all along the edges, just to make everything really smooth. And then I'll finish just by using some patting motions too, just to set that base shade in place. Because my moisturiser has had about 10 minutes to set in, I actually went back to the face and used the Becca Cosmetics Shimmering Skin Perfector Liquid in the shade Moonstone, using a Peaches PC01 brush. An alternative to this would be MAC Strobe Cream, as I don't think they sell the Becca Cosmetics one anymore. And I've just taken some more of that base shade that I used on the top of the eyelid and taken that underneath the eye, then finishing with a fluffy brush just to buff it all out and pat it into C-lip. Following on from this, I did a little bit of colour correction on the skin, just colour correcting any redness on the face, any areas where there's maybe a couple of spots, and I used the Kryolan Dermacolour Mini Palette in Fair in the shade D2, which is kind of like a muted green shade, and it contrasts to any redness on the face, so what we're doing is called colour correcting. This is the foundation NARS Sheer Glow, and it's using the shade Mont Blanc. And I like to apply my foundation using a separate brush, and then once I've kind of covered in a nice thin layer across the face, I'll take a blending brush. So I use the 102 Silk Finish Zoeva brush, but any buffing brush will do, to be honest. I buff that into the skin using light patting motions and slight swiping motions, and it just gives me that really nice even base without moving any of the colour correction that I'd done underneath it. Moving on to the eyes, I used the Stacey Marie Tahiti palette, and I used the shade Hibiscus from this. I folded up a cotton pad just to lift the brow up slightly so I had more access to the inside of the lid, and I'm using a fluffy brush from the Jessup Brush Eye Set. What I'm doing here is I'm building up the pigment, so I'm using a combination of patting and swiping motions and just making sure my edges are really soft at the same time. So I dip into the palette quite a lot just to build up that pigment, and then match it on the other side the best I can, just by taking steps back every now and again just to evaluate the overall look. Here I've taken the Black Heart Beauty pigment in Enchanted on a precision eye brush, and I'm just patting that on dry over the top of the eyeshadow. I didn't use any sort of glitter glue or pigment potion for this one, as I just wanted it to be really nice and subtle, so just like a nice sheen across the lid. And then again applied that to the other eye so it all matched up. I didn't put it all over the lid, more just kind of in the middle and the inner corner. Then I've taken a smudger brush and again just kind of pulled that pink that we used on the top just underneath the eye slightly so it all joins up. Then I finished off with a fluffy brush and just really took my time with this bit just to make sure that all of that pink eyeshadow was blended out nicely into the skin that I'd done. Here I got my client to look up in the other direction that I was going to be applying makeup to. So I'm just adding a little bit of the Black Heart Beauty baseline in Cloud White into the waterline, and that's going to really open her eyes up and make them look really nice and bright. Using a disposable mascara wand, I've just taken whatever mascara I had to hand. I think it might have been the L'Oreal Telescopic, but it doesn't matter too much. And I've applied that from the roots to the edges of her lashes, just to give them a little bit of colour because she did have quite blonde lashes. I always get my clients to look in the opposite direction of where I'm applying, just to make it a little bit easier for them too. I'm actually using some eBay strip lashes. I think you can get 5 in a pack for around £2, £5 depending on which site you get them from. And I've just sized up the eye slightly and then trimmed them to fit her eye shape. I like to use the Duo latex-free lash adhesive in the clear shade to apply my lashes, and I usually just apply it on to the strip lash, leave it to set for around 20 to 30 seconds, and then just kind of swoop it in, place it on the lash line and check that it all fits. Next, I'm using the Sleek highlighter palette with the Peaches and Cream brush PC17 and just dusting that on in a few places. Then warming up the cheeks with the Lottie London bronzer in the shade light to medium and the Zoeva 108 brush, just using swiping out motions, making sure that face is really lifted. I tend to apply my bronzer up on the cheekbones as well, just because I like to give that kind of lifted look. I used the Morphe Warm Blusher palette and just used a mix of shades from there, and again just placed those around the area of where I put my bronzer, lifting the face. I finished the face off by filling in the lips, and I used the Peaches and Cream lip liner in the shade Borderline, just placing a cotton pad underneath the chin so that I could steady myself with my little finger, and I just sketched on the shape that I wanted. This client had lovely full lips which give me this really gorgeous finish, and I was able to create something really nice that complemented the overall makeup too. So I just sketched the line on where I wanted it around the outside of the lips. I didn't need to overdraw either, and then I just filled it in as well. I don't always use lipsticks, sometimes I'll just use lip liners and sketch all over the lip, and then I'll finish off with some sort of gloss. So in this case I use the NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Creme Brulee. Sometimes I'll just take a really fine brush with some foundation on it and I'll just kind of go around the lip line if I've got any areas I'm not happy with, just to neaten them up and get that really nice shape that I want. And finally I use the Superdrug Vitamin E Hydrating Mist. An alternative to this would be the Pixi Glow Mist or the e.l.f. Hydrating Coconut Mist, and it smells amazing and it gets rid of any cakiness from any powder products and just gives that really nice fresh dewy finish to it. Then I just buffed out any areas that I felt needed it a little bit more, maybe slightly along the jawline and down the neck. And this was the finished look. I was really happy with this, my client was happy with this, and I think it complemented her skin tone really well. So this is a really nice example of something that you could do for a very fresh, natural or dewy type makeup look.